coast to coast about President Trump's tariffs. Some, they're happy with them. Many are struggling.
Donald Trump has told a rally at a U.S. steel plant in Pennsylvania that he intends to double U.S. steel import tariffs to 50%. The president said the increase would offer the country's steel industry more security and vowed to stop any countries getting around the new rate.
Stellantis has temporarily laid off 900 workers at 5 U.S. plants. Apple now ships 65% of U.S.-bound iPhones from India. Alcoa has rerouted its aluminum supply chain away from North America. Deere & Company is staring down over $500 million in tariff-related costs in 2025 alone. These aren't isolated incidents, they're warning signs of a seismic shift in the American economy. In just a matter of months, 6 major corporations across industries from tech and toys to steel and tractors have either scaled back, relocated, or begun withdrawing operations from the U.S. And here's the twist, they're not losing money. In fact, many of them are still highly profitable. But they're being priced out of staying in the U.S. not by competition, not by consumer demand, but by rising tariffs and trade war fallout. This isn't just about protecting domestic jobs or making foreign companies play fair. What we're seeing is the unintended consequence of protectionist policies. American-made is becoming too expensive to make in America. Instead of bringing jobs home, many companies are doing the math and choosing to leave quietly before they bleed out. In 2025, the battlefield isn't just factories and showrooms, it's supply chains, import taxes, and shifting production maps. And right now, America is losing ground. Behind the scenes of America's economy industry, giants are making major exits not in protest, but in survival mode. They're not making headlines with shutdowns, but with strategic pivots, reroutes, and silent retreats. And it's all happening at once. Shein and Temu, these 2 e-commerce titans known for ultra-cheap fashion and gadgets, have been hit with tariffs up to 145% on every shipment under $800. That's obliterated their low-cost advantage. In response, both companies are slashing ad budgets, pausing new campaigns, and quietly pulling back from the U.S. market. The checkout cart just got a lot more expensive and emptier. MGA Entertainment, the California-based toy giant behind Bratz and LOL, Surprise is shifting 40% of its production out of China, redirecting it to India, Vietnam, and Indonesia within 6 months. With 77% of U.S. toys still made in China, this signals a major realignment in how and where the toy aisle gets filled. Retailers like Walmart and Target will need to adapt fast. Alcoa, America's top aluminum producer, is taking a hard turn away from Canada, its traditional supply partner, due to fresh tariffs. Instead, it's shipping aluminum to Europe and importing more from Australia to serve U.S. clients. The message is clear: the path of least resistance is no longer domestic. Deere & Company, the maker of iconic green tractors, is burdened with $500 million in tariff-related costs, $100 million of which has already been paid. To cope, Deere is raising prices by up to 4%, shifting sourcing and tapping into trade deals like USMCA. Still, 60% of its tariff costs come from parts imported from China, the EU, and Mexico. A reminder that even made in America isn't truly local anymore. Apple. In a stunning pivot, India has overtaken China as the top iPhone exporter to the US, thanks to a 76% surge in shipments. Apple's partner Foxconn is investing $1.5 billion in a new mega factory in Bengaluru that will create 50,000 jobs not in Ohio or Texas, but halfway across the world. By the end of the year, 65% of iPhones sold in the US could come from India. Stellantis, the auto giant behind Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, and Ram, is feeling the full weight of new vehicle tariffs. It recently laid off 900 workers at 5 U.S. plants, halted production in Mexico and Canada, and pulled its full-year guidance after a 20% drop in North American sales. The United Auto Workers called it the horrifying consequence of reckless tariffs. These aren't just corporate pivots, they're signs of a broader retreat. When the biggest names in e-commerce, tech industry, and manufacturing start slipping away from the US, not because they want to, but because they have to. We're no longer just talking about trade policy. We're talking about a system that's driving its own champions off the road. Tariffs were sold to the public as a shield, a bold move to protect American workers, revive local manufacturing, and level the global playing field. But in reality, these tariffs have become a double-edged sword that's cutting deep into the very economy they were meant to defend. Take the 25% tariff on imported vehicles. Instead of bringing car production back to U.S. soil, it's forced automakers like Stellantis and Nissan to cut output, delay orders, and lay off workers. Not because business is bad, but because the math no longer works. The cost of building a car in North America just jumped too high, too fast. Then there's the 145% tariff on low-cost imports targeting cheap goods often sold by platforms like Shein and Temu. What started as a crackdown on foreign e-commerce giants has now rippled through global supply chains, disrupting logistics, raising prices, and pushing companies to either exit or reroute operations out of the U.S. Instead of sparking a made-in-America renaissance, these policies have triggered an exodus. Large corporations with global reach and flexible logistics are choosing to relocate supply chains rather than absorb steep tariff costs. The result, American jobs are quietly disappearing not to overseas competition, but to economic policy made at home. What was meant to be protection has morphed into pressure, pushing companies out, shrinking their U.S. footprint, and leaving American workers caught in the crossfire. In trying to build walls around the economy, we may have just locked out the future. Tariffs don't just hit the companies on paper, they hit the shelves, the showrooms, and your wallet. As major manufacturers scramble to absorb rising costs, the impact is trickling down fast and everyone's starting to feel it. Take aluminum, a key ingredient in everything from soda cans to SUVs. With suppliers like Alcoa redirecting exports and foreign sources now carrying added tariffs, the price of aluminum has spiked sharply. That in turn pushes up costs for appliances, electronics, construction materials, and automobiles. Even the price tag on a basic ladder or kitchen faucet might look different and not in your favor. Machinery and auto parts are also caught in the crossfire. Companies like Deere & Company and Ford are paying more to import the components they need, and when costs go up at the factory, they eventually land in the consumer's lap. For car buyers, that could mean higher sticker prices, longer wait times, or fewer options on the lot. Some automakers are already adjusting. Nissan and Ford, facing rising costs on vehicles built in Mexico, have resorted to employee pricing just to keep demand moving, a clear sign that the market is under strain. Others are scaling back imports, entirely delaying or discontinuing models that were once staple choices in American garages. And it's not just about cars. From washing machines to wireless headphones, U.S. consumers are seeing higher prices, thinner inventories, and shrinking choices, not because demand is booming, but because trade policies have made it harder and more expensive to bring goods in. At the end of the day, tariffs designed to protect American industry are reaching deep into everyday life, not with headlines, but with higher bills, longer waits, and limited options. And the average shopper, not the CEO, is the one left footing the bill. As the trade war reshapes the playing field, companies aren't waiting for Washington to blink, they're rewriting the rules. Survival now depends not on loyalty to borders, but on agility, global strategy, and speed. The message from corporate boardrooms is clear. If the U.S. becomes too expensive to produce in, we'll produce elsewhere. Leading the charge is Apple, which has quietly made India its new manufacturing powerhouse. In 2025, Apple ramped up production in India by 76%, pouring $1.5 billion into a massive Foxconn facility in Bengaluru. That single move is expected to create over 50,000 jobs in South Asia, not Silicon Valley. It's not a retreat from the U.S. market, but a strategic pivot away from risk. Alcoa and Deere & Company are following suit not by scaling down, but by reconfiguring. Alcoa is sourcing more aluminum from Australia, bypassing tariff-heavy trade routes. Deere, facing $500 million in new costs, is shifting suppliers and renegotiating under the USMCA to protect its margins. Both are playing the long game, rerouting around the problem rather than waiting for it to be solved. This is more than a shift in logistics, it's a shift in philosophy. The old mantra, "Make in America," is being replaced by a colder, more calculated one, "Adapt to survive." Corporate America is no longer building around nationalism, it's building around resilience. Tariff walls, political uncertainty, and inflation have forced companies to prioritize flexibility over patriotism, profit over permanence. Restructuring, offshoring, and realigning aren't betrayals. They're survival strategies in a world where borders are costs and adaptability is the only currency that counts. Today, many companies still sell in the US, but they no longer build here. iPhones come from India, toys from Vietnam, aluminum from Australia. Yet the products still wear the Made in America label often, because only the final assembly happens domestically. Tariffs were meant to protect US industry, but instead, they've hurt competitive sectors by raising costs and pushing production overseas. In trying to save weaker industries, we've made it harder for stronger ones to thrive. Now, domestic manufacturing is more about strategy than location. The label remains, but the reality behind it has changed, and for many, it no longer means what it used to. if even America's strongest brands are moving production overseas because of tariffs. Then who exactly are these policies protecting? The numbers don't lie, jobs are being cut, supply chains are shifting, and prices are rising. What was meant to defend American manufacturing is now forcing it to adapt or leave. So the real question isn't just about trade, it's about priorities. Share this video if you care about jobs, prices, and the future of US manufacturing. What's your take? Are companies like Apple, Deere, Shein, and Stellantis making smart moves or abandoning their roots? Drop your thoughts in the comments because global trade isn't just a policy debate. It's a daily reality that affects what we earn, what we buy, and what's left behind.